What are you doing with your mouth? We're just going live and you're playing with your mouth.
Just dancing, mate.
Hey, everyone. Massive welcome to what could be a very interesting How to Hire Cyber Talent with myself, Simon Linstead, and up there, Lee Gilbank from Jobs in Cyber. Just to let you all know, I have had a wisdom tooth extracted about an hour and 20 minutes ago. I have got some gauze at the ready here, so things might get interesting from a blood point of view. But let's just, now you're aware of that, let's get on to the event. So, Lee, why don't you tell everyone what we're going to be talking about today so I can mop up the blood from the corner of my mouth?
Yeah, I'm about to say it's purely just to stop you slurring your words as much there, isn't it, Si? So, yeah. Perfect. Hello, everyone. Today we have someone who I've known we worked out today when I was talking to him 7 years. And we're going to be going over his hiring practice. He has a wealth of experience. When Jay comes on, we'll let him do a little bit of piece about himself. Been in the industry a long time, hired a lot, fired probably just as many as he's hired. And I have actually gone through Jay's hiring process because at one point 7 years ago, Jay actually hired me as well.
And you're still friends 7 years later.
Yeah, it's cost me a lot, dignity and whatnot. But yeah, no, I have a lot of respect for Jay. I've known him for a lot of years. Still speak to him, still meet up with him regularly. He's a great guy. I can see him smiling. He's and I think he's pushing.
But look, before we bring him on, for those that don't know it, Jay George is our guest today, CISO at Airnow Cybersecurity, and as Lee said, over 20 years in the information security industry, with a career including leading security practices in consulting companies and large corporates. Large, I can't even say that word. Acting as the outsourced CISO for a range of sectors, delivering hands-on governance, policy audit, and assurance work, and implementing technical control measures. Also a founding member of the Chartered Institute of Information Security, Jay puts risk assessment into practice in his personal life by diving in caves and wrecks. And it's the last bit I'm quite interested in hearing a bit about today. Jay, I've got my paddy, but that was a long time ago. I think it's run out now. But look, before we bring him on, massive thank you to everyone who's tuned in to watch. If you have got any questions, we want to try and minimize the amount I speak as much as possible. So if you could drop them in, let's make it interactive and let's bring Jay on now. Hold on 1 second. Here he is.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on, Jay. This is actually, for everyone watching live, a first for me because Jay and I haven't actually spoken before this event. So I'm going to be as enthralled as the rest of you listening to the story. So, yeah, Lee, I'll let you carry on. So,
yeah, I mean, first off, that's probably the most formal description of Jay's career and who Jay is I've ever heard in my lifetime that you put. But yeah, as I said, I've known Jay for a number of years. But I mean, Jay, thanks for coming on. But firstly, it'd be great if you could do a little bit of a career highlights as to kind of who you are.
Okay, cool. I mean, that was a very formal intro to what I've done. I tend to describe my job as a cup of tea and a chat, because that's all information security comes down to, really. It's about persuading people to do good things and hopefully persuading them not to do bad things as well. And I've done all sorts of stuff in security over the years. I've got a very big focus around the GRC area for about the last 10 years or so, and have set up and run 5 secure operations centres from scratch, including in the defence industry. And I've done an awful lot of interesting bits of consultancy, whether that's carrying out ISO audits for organisations that frankly don't really have anything in place at all, or doing social engineering engagements where I've literally been chased down the corridor of well-known public buildings, or have hidden under desks, or broken into the headquarters of investment banks in central London. So I've had quite a nice varied career, and I've hired quite a lot of people over the years in order to do work that we need to be done at various levels, from entry positions right the way up to head of practice positions. And I think we're all aware that the hiring process is tricky, and it's not perfect either.
No, I mean, and let's be honest, that leads us very, very nicely onto one of the first things I want to kind of get onto is, hiring practices. In your opinion, Jay, in your expert, worldly and knowledgeable opinion, what are the current practices that you feel work well within the industry, within cyber? I mean, let's be honest, cyber's huge at the moment. Obviously, your main focus at Airnow is it solely the SOC, or is it outside of the SOC piece and stuff? And then
mostly on the SOC.
Yeah, perfect. Which, let's be honest, is a very popular space for people to try and get into at the moment. So with that, what are the good hiring practices that are you seeing within where you're working at the moment?
I mean, nothing really much has changed as far as hiring practices, not just in the information security industry, but overall, for what feels like decades. It's always the same. We have a look at a CV, we have a bit of a chat, and then we bring people in for an interview process. There's sometimes during the interview process, you can get a really good feeling that someone's going to be terrible for the job. Sometimes people sort of give themselves away a bit, and you can have an understanding that they are probably going to function in the job the same way as they have in a job interview. But even the ones who get through the interview and are really good, I found the interview process is not actually all that great for telling you how they're going to perform in the job itself. At the moment, I'm doing a lot of hiring into our secure operations centre, and I'm focusing very much on people brand new to the industry as well. So I'm taking a slightly different approach. As far as I'm concerned, what is one of the key characteristics is someone that's able to take some direction and run with it. Show their own thought processes, show their research, and bring something back. Because by and large, people should be fairly autonomous in the workplace. We should all know the goals we're working towards, and we should all have our own individual specialities that come together as a team. But we should be able to have a quick chat at the start of the day and set people off, in their own direction to get things done. So that means we need to reflect that during the interview process.
I'm just going to jump in, Jay. I'm a father of 6 children who it will relate back to what you just said, who personally was half privately educated and half comprehensively state school educated. Yeah. And one of the biggest challenges in relation to what you're saying is the dearth of critical thinking, in my opinion. I agree. Yeah. And the question is that one of the hardest skills to find when you're looking for staff?
I think so. So what I've found over the years is that if I'm bringing people into the security industry with no previous expertise, then there are certain educational routes that actually are really good at still reinforcing critical thinking. Some of the best people I've ever hired came from physics degrees, because it teaches them to try to solve a problem that can't necessarily be solved. And, I find that security is basically bashing up against what everyone else wants you to do every single day. Or as I said to someone the other day, my job is just problem, and then one day I'll die. So, that's pretty much all.
For all you aspiring CISOs out there.
Yeah. And that's pretty much all security really is. It's just dealing with issue after issue after issue. And that's fine. You know, that's why we're employed to do that role, and we let other people do their roles. But it means you have to come into it with a mindset of solving a problem that maybe no one's solved before, and not quite in the way that's suitable for the organization where you work. When I recruit people that are brand new to the industry these days, it's just a two-step process. That's it. I have a bit of a chat with them on the phone. I just make sure they come across as a normal person and they sound really interested in the role. But then the face-to-face interview, I tell them exactly what I'm going to ask. So I have 3 fairly open-ended areas. 2 are questions where we'll have a bit of a discussion, but I ask them to produce a presentation as well, and we talk through that. Now, these may be on subjects that they haven't previously come across in that depth, but I give them sufficient time between saying, hey, are you available to come in and chat, and when we actually have that time, for them to do enough research and walk through the topics that we've agreed. I'm not expecting it to be perfect either. What I'm really expecting is to be able to engage in a conversation with them where they're explaining it like a bit of a story, in effect. You know, I do want to see a start, middle, and end, because that does show me structured thinking.
Cool. I mean, that's obviously the second part you said, correct?
Yeah. When we do the stage 2 face to face, yeah.
Yeah. So they've obviously wowed you at the first stage as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
So obviously, you give them you kind of give them a bit of an outline of what to prepare for the face-to-face element.
Absolutely.
Is there anything you would recommend people do to prepare for the first phase? You know, for the telephone, would you expect people to have questions about obviously the role or the company, or what do you expect, or what impresses you when you're hiring for in that first phase to get people pushing past?
Sure. So there's a question that I ask in pretty much every single interview I've conducted for a very, very long time now. And I do it during the first stage phone call, and I do it in the formal interview, and I'll have one of my colleagues with me as well. And it's simply just talk me through the details of a recent security breach. If someone's going to work in this industry, we live or die on our up-to-date knowledge of what's taking place in terms of attackers and defense mechanisms. Otherwise, the benefit we bring to the organizations in which we work, that just atrophies over time. So I expect someone to go, actually, there was a thing that happened with Royal Mail. Have you heard about that? I'm like, brilliant. Okay, great. Tell me what led up to that and what the impact would be as well. And I'm looking for evidence that someone is thinking of some of the technical parts, but also what was the actual result to the organization that suffered from that? Because security is a tiny little bit of what takes place in the world. It's very easy to get lost within our own microcosm, but really we're only there to support one of 2 things. We're there to support a revenue stream for an organization, or we're involved in part of critical national infrastructure and we're there to save lives. And that's all we're there to do. We're there to support those 2 missions, and that's it. So we have to take into account the bigger picture, and I love to see people that are able to come back to me on those questions with an idea that it's not just about configuring a firewall or putting some access control lists in place.
And I suppose probably the level of answer you expect from the people when they're putting this forward will differ from, if they're brand new into the industry, they'll have a basic understanding, they might understand a little bit, up to if you're hiring a SOC leader, GRC leader, they'll be able to go into a lot more depth, and actually, you might get a little bit more technical and drill down into it a little bit more, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah. And when we're talking about differences in people at different levels, that brings me around to what's on people's CVs. So if I'm talking about an entry level person, absolutely fine. All I'm looking for is enthusiasm and the ability to engage in the subject matter that I present to them. If we're talking about an experienced hire, though, the first thing someone like me typically is going to see is going to be a CV. And I think by and large, what's on them is massively out of date. I see an enormous amount of CVs that start off listing every single bit of software or hardware that people have touched You know, I've seen ones that don't just say Cisco switches, but they say, you know, Cisco 29XX version and Cisco 3XXX. I'm like, you know, I got it the first time. You've been on a Cisco device or you've heard of one. What I'm not going to do is base an interview question around your use of Wireshark or your use of Nmap because you've got it in a list. What I will do is I will base part of the interview on what's in the CV, and I think that's my first bit of advice on a CV. Be prepared to talk about what you've got on there. So if you have something you touched in a small way, that might be the one thing that I ask about because it tweaks my interest. And I'm going to say, oh, tell me a bit more about this. Sadly, you wouldn't believe the number of times I've asked that question and people go, haven't really been involved in that. I mean, that's literally your billboard. That's your personal billboard. You should be able to talk through the story from start to end at any point. I'm not really interested in lists of technology underneath the individual jobs either. What I want to get an idea is what you're responsible for and what your achievements were as well. You know, let's break it down into tasks and processes you were involved in and something that you took the lead on delivering on as well. Those are the ones that really help.
Yeah, I mean, is there sorry, we'll get on to questions in a second. I've just got another quick one for Jay. Is there a format or an order that you like to see? Because it helps people. So, you know, for me, when I like to obviously contact details, bit of a personal summary, then a careers highlights or something along that line, you know, things that stand out or whatnot, and then experience, and then hobbies, which what is it you always name aside for the hobbies? Is it hiking, biking, and
hiking, reading and swimming normally works.
Brilliant.
Works me every time.
So I've got like pretty much everyone, I've got a limited amount of time to deal with anything, and I have to maximize that time. So I'm not. I don't need to see anyone's address. I don't care. You know, it's personal details that I don't need. I don't need anything around your telephone number or your driving license status or any of that. I don't want to see hobbies either. You know, if you come for interview and we get on, maybe we'll talk about things then. But you know, I need to be able to assess someone based on their aptitude to do the job. You know, and I'm not going to be prejudiced because they do something that I find weird or odd. You know, let's keep it very business focused here. I also don't like the personal statement at the start. I skip straight over that. I think it's a waste of everyone's time. It's a paragraph in which everyone's going to say, I'm amazing, I'm great at this, I've got this experience. I can see your experience because you've got it written down in the most recent job. So it's just a tautology, I find. You know, I'm not really keen on reading things twice. So the most recent position is going to be the most interesting one. And I want to see achievements and responsibilities on there. I do agree, though, Lee, career highlights can be really good. Like, say, most significant projects you've worked on. They may summarize that before we get to the work history. I'm a little bit old school. My approach to CVs, 2 pages, that's it, you know, and most of it should be on the first page. Sure, the stuff that comes out prior to your most recent position is useful in terms of me having an idea about your longevity within the industry and the experience that you've got.
Perfect.
Do you mind if I just jump in quickly? Just to go back on something you said, Jay. Sorry to talk over you, Lee. You know I do it all the time anyway. I suppose you're used to it now. The hobbies bit. Now, some people build servers. My 17-year-old's doing his technology levels at the moment. And now finishing that, and part of what he's spending his time doing is he's programming, looking at all the areas he can use ChatGPT to automate things, and that to him is a hobby because he absolutely loves it, and that's what he spends his time doing. Should he be displaying that differently on his CV?
That's a really good one, actually. If there is something like that that is really different and does show a genuine passion for things, yeah, let's bring up that. But maybe when we have a section about top projects worked on, put it in there, because I mean, something like that's utterly unique and really useful to what we're doing now. So if I see someone's got a whole load of experience, plus they're doing this as well, brilliant, absolutely great.
But it's got to be relevant, right?
It has got to be relevant, yeah. So I try to be as honest and fair with every single candidate as I possibly can be, which means I don't want to be swayed by extraneous information on there. I'm literally just interested in that person's attitude for the job at that stage. As we get further down the interview process, depending on the number of roles I'm hiring into, the type of roles, and also the nature of the team, I'll consider other things such as team fit. But that's at a later stage, and I'm never going to be able to work out appropriateness of team fit from a CV anyway.
Yeah, cool. Do you want to pull up some questions though?
Yeah, no, thanks. I will. Firstly, KevTech, I'm going to do the first question in reverse order because it's a really, really important one. But first of all, KevTech put a lot of people list skills but don't talk about achievements. If you did something big like a contribution, talk about it. Again, it's selling yourself. Thanks, KevTech. But the first really important question is: do you have pineapple on your pizza?
Oh gosh. I mean, no.
Yes.
Tacos, pineapple.
No.
Tacos. Yes. Roasted pineapple on pork tacos every time.
Oh, that sounds good. That does sound good. I might convert to having pineapple on hot food because I've always found it a little bit disturbing. But maybe I should take a step over that. Right. Okay. So first question was from Gagan before, just as we went live, actually. Why are companies not hiring fresher graduates?
That's a really good question, and I totally empathise with how difficult it is to get into the industry, and I don't think it's a problem that is now. I think it's a long-running problem we have, whereas people enter into whatever profession they're in, and they become older, and something happens, and we accidentally become gatekeepers of the profession that we're in. I think this is very much reflected in where you hear people hit their 40s like, oh, all new music's rubbish, you know, and then you've got all the heritage acts taking over the headline slots at festivals and getting on radio, and frankly they're stopping younger bands coming into the market. And it's exactly the same with any workplace as well. You know, we need to break out of these ways of thinking and realize that we're all young once, we're all in that position, and we really have to support young people coming into the industry. I can't speak for other companies, of course, why they're not supporting fresher graduates, but the way that we support them is through the process that I've said, taking entry-level people who show aptitude for the role, not experience. And that's significantly more important to me. I mean, you know, it's that catch-22 of how are you supposed to get experience in something if nobody's going to give you a break in the first place. I'd like to add something extra to that as well, which is I don't currently find, and I've never found this, that formal education at degree level has ever really prepared people for the workplace in an adequate way, except, as I said, physics grads who are just, you know, little geniuses in a box. But formal education through computer science, you know, computer security, I think it's still underserving industry, and it's leaving people
I completely.
Yeah, I think part of the problem with that is obviously they have to put the syllabus, syllabus thing it's called, or, you know, the teaching stuff together based on information that is in theory 12 months old, so it can be checked, verified, and then taught, and then that's like, oh well, that's outdated. That's, you know, at this point it's 18 months old. It's like, well, yeah, so they're not learning the stuff which is now. Like ChatGPT, for example, won't be on the syllabus now, but it's one of the biggest things which is out there.
It probably won't be on there in 2 years' time either. This is the problem. I'm thinking. Sorry, go on, Jay.
Yeah, Lee made a really good point there. So I did a master's in information security probably about 8 years ago now, and I did it through Royal Holloway. And this was a topic that came up quite a lot. Someone saying, but what you're teaching us here is not how to deal with X threat or Y control. And one of the tutors quite rightly said, but his education will give me principles. We're not, that stuff you're talking about is a training course. And that's absolutely correct, but it means we've got a mismatch with what employers are expecting and what students think they're expecting and are going to be able to present to the employer.
I think managing expectations on both sides is a huge issue. I blame the boot camps for that, but we won't dig into that too much today. Who say you can, do our course and be a pen tester and earn 100 grand in a few months? I fell for that myself. So just going back to something you said, Lee can't make this comment because he's not old like I am. But going back to what you said about older people in the profession potentially gatekeeping, it's not just the hiring practices where that can be a problem. Couple of CEOs I've spoken to recently, after speaking to a different CISO, it was the inability to comprehend intangible assets, because their business has always been tangible stuff. But now our most important asset being data, probably, and information. It's very difficult for people of an older generation to get their heads around that. And I think you need a certain skill set to be able to convince the wrong word, storytell and educate the board as to that. So again, age is a problem, says the nearly 50-year-old man sitting at the bottom. So next question, because I know we've only got 15 more minutes, so I'll try and rattle these through because we've got quite a few. Richard Phillips, thank you very much, Richard. And first question, Gagan, I hope that answered. I think you'll see that there are some genuine people in the industry trying to change and do it differently, but with anything, it takes time, doesn't it? So, Richards, how do you think the current wave of layoffs will affect people and hiring in the industry, with the latest being the NCC group, allegedly or apparently? Not sure more.
Okay, I mean, I can't comment on any particular organisations, but I think the general point of have a sudden influx of talent to the marketplace, it ends up highlighting that salaries through cyber have been massively inflated for a few years, and people are coming into the industry without the commensurate amount of skills and experience that should give rise to the salaries they're demanding. Pen testers are a particular case in point. I find that they command massively high salaries, and yet, in the same way that security is a microcosm of the world as a whole, pen testing is again an even smaller microcosm within that. And it will be difficult for large amounts of people entering the job marketplace to probably leverage their same amount of worth somewhere else. My recommendation would be, if it's security you're interested in, it's a very broad church, and having the soft skills goes a very, very long way in making you more attractive to your next employer.
Yeah, I mean, it's all going to be about selling yourself, isn't it? That's the way the market is. Yeah, sorry, Lee, go on.
So, I mean, I suppose, obviously, everyone goes on about the cyber skills gap. And I think part of the cyber skills gap is down to, as you just said, these overinflated salaries. I mean, that because people are having to pay more, they then want more from the people who they're hiring. So they're saying, right, well, if you want that, you need to do all this. And they're like, well, if you want someone to do all this, it's a unicorn. It's like, yeah, but if you want me to pay you this is what I need from that. Otherwise, I can go hire 2 people who'll be able to do it. So it's
for sure, and it ends up creating this loop of people demanding a lot of money, getting it, being able to hide amongst big teams in larger security practices, but eventually not performing well, and then being back on the marketplace, etc. I think there is a need for a wider understanding of the different security domains amongst security professionals.
Yeah, I think again, it can be quite siloed, can't it, with regards to knowledge? I mean, again, yeah, I completely agree on the pen tester side. And talking about, you just mentioned the social proof, the building your own brand, how important that is. I mean, I'll bring this question up because Shane asked it earlier. Personal branding and LinkedIn networking has been hyped up. How important are these strategies from a hiring manager perspective?
Interesting. So the rate of change and the rate of development only seems to exponentially increase over time. We've gone from a position where the whole social networking and then business social networking has gone from nothing to the types of thing we're talking about here, where people are developing personal brands. And now we're coming almost to an exit around the other end of that, which is saying, oh, actually, I'm not sure this whole branding is really reflective of the quality of the person. Again, I can't speak for others, but it doesn't influence me one jot. I just want to know what people have done that contributes to the role I'm hiring into, something demonstrable, or if I'm hiring an entry level position, what's there?
I think it goes back to what you said about the CV being your showcase. And if you're going to drill down, rightly so, on things that people put in there, you need to use things like LinkedIn and social media as an online active, alive CV. So demonstrate the labs you've done. What does that mean? What does that mean? As you said, demonstrable. It's great saying you're top 1% to try hack me. Well done. But what does that actually mean? It's not enough to list stuff. It's the story. It's the storytelling, isn't it? And making sure you get.
There is a story. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go drill into someone's LinkedIn for more than a minute or so. I'm certainly not going to follow their personal links at all. I mean, I think myself as a professional paranoid type. I rarely click on anything, on any link anyone sends to me. I mean, oh God, I've jumped through hoops getting on various things today just because I'm like, oh, I'm not entirely sure I'm clicking on that. You put something in a CV that's not a LinkedIn link, I'm not going anywhere near it. Sorry. I would hope that someone could summarize and present the important points on the first page of CV or a covering email if you're going to do it in that way. And I would rather spend 10-15 minutes of my time having a call with someone and we can chat through. That's a much better use of my time and a more beneficial way of me understanding if I want to have a second conversation with them.
Yeah, no, 100%. Richard, you've asked quite a few questions. I'm conscious we've got 10 minutes left, so I'm going to answer one of yours with a one-word answer, which is, do you think that recruiters could do more to guide people to what may be a better direction for them within cyber? Yes, but they don't get paid for it. Next question that I will. Next question. I mean that's the problem, isn't it? That recruiters are not all recruiters are there to guide people. Yes, they could do more, 100%.
Yeah.
But in reality, I think, as
it's
we were talking about with the layoffs, and with the layoffs, the market's saturated with people. Their job is to place candidates. So if they've got the time, I know there are recruiters out there who do spend time helping people, but like you said, professional people don't have that much spare time. But the next one that Richard asked, which relates to me, because I am allegedly found out at 45 that I've got ADHD. You'd never tell because I don't talk much. But how do you approach neurodiverse individuals?
I think it's a really good question because it's part of a more general, how do we put diversity in our security teams? Anyway, I think most professions have a representation issue. Security definitely does. It tends to be populated by loads of white guys. I mean, look at the three of us talking here on the screen, and we definitely need to do more to encourage people to get into the profession from all sorts of different attitudes and approaches. I actually interviewed someone a few years ago, and someone who was, neurally diverse. And during the interview, which she was brilliant at, there was one question she didn't know the answer to, and at the end she went, "What was that? What was the answer to that?" And I told her, and she happened to be holding a pen, and she just went, damn, and sort of lobbed the pen across the room. It bounced off and hit a wall, and I in that moment thought, she's definitely getting the job. Look at that sort of drive. Look at that passion and enthusiasm for the role. And it wasn't someone angry who says, and I really liked that. I mean, while we're on the subject of neurally diverse as well, I know there's been quite a bit of work in various industries and some parts of information security around helping people on the Asperger's spectrum do security work or developing work, because that sort of become hyper-focused can be something that entirely plays to their skill sets. And I've had people working for me that definitely fit into that description, and they were great.
But if it's anything like me, I mean, I wasn't aware I had it. It's not a thing, is it really?
Yeah.
But for me, I had no idea how to manage it. And I think unless people get that guidance on how to manage and channel that, that ability to mono-focus and hyper-focus on tasks.
Absolutely.
It's possible, but you do need the guidance. And going back to talking about the education piece or the lack of education piece, KevTech's made a really good point. As far as education is concerned, I wish we had apprenticeships, work experience, invite people that work IT, add these things to colleges and schools. And I think we all agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My thing with that is obviously how running my own businesses. I get people saying, "Oh, can I come work with, willing to volunteer?" But it's really hard in a security instance to just suddenly spin up something and know what you can give them access to in a secure manner when they're only going to be there 2 or 3 weeks. It actually takes quite a bit of time. And then from a small business point of view, if you're doing that and you end up spending 3-4 hours a day with them, or maybe not even that long, even 5 hours a week, 6 hours a week, that's a lot of time for a small business where it's potentially lost earnings and things as well. So I would, for me, I would love to be able to help more people out, but in the nicest way, I just can't afford it in the size that I am, because I don't have the time to set it all up and I don't have the time to manage it and then close it off properly at the end. It's a really hard thing to actually set up.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I love apprenticeships. I've taken quite a few people through apprenticeship schemes, people who came into completely different walks of life. I've actually got the senior SOC analyst that I work with right now came to us through an apprenticeship scheme from a totally different background, came through as an apprentice SOC analyst and now is a senior SOC analyst, and hopefully will carry on progressing and become more senior within the company as well. My daughter's 11, and obviously in a few years there'll be discussions about following on education and careers and things like that. It's going to be very difficult for me to highly recommend higher education at the university level.
Likewise.
I did an apprenticeship.
Right, are we ready?
I didn't go to uni. I did an apprenticeship, and it was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah.
We've got 4 minutes left. I want to do a quick fire question round. We've got 4 questions. Do you reckon you can do 4 in 4 minutes? Yeah. Right. First one. Go. Is Network Plus necessary? Hey, Natalie, for cybersecurity entry level positions. Which should I go for first? There we go.
Okay. Any sort of security certification is fine. For entry level positions, I think find an employer like us who are looking for aptitude more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the ISC squared certified in cybersecurity gives you a really millimeter deep, broad church view of the industry, and it's free for people at the moment. So my recommendation is get that done as a first instance before you start spending any money on other ones. Ellie, member of our community, Ellie's transitioning from a career in teaching. She's struggling to get a place, again, with the barriers that are there from employers. What should she do as an entry-level person to put on their resume as they transition?
I'm going to come back to my problems die here, which is I think you need to stress the fact that you deal with problems and issues, and I would want to see under that responsibilities and achievements how you've dealt with problems and issues, because like I've always said, everything at work worked absolutely fine until you add people to the mix.
It's life in general, isn't it?
Yeah.
Great problems all around.
Yeah. Richard Foster, Brainstorm Security. Great to see you, Richard. Thanks for tuning in. What should entry-level candidates be realistically expecting in terms of pay? Good question. Also, should they try and negotiate up or just get a foot in the door?
Okay. Excellent question. I'm going to be very direct and honest about this, and a lot of people are not going to like the answer at all. I think for an entry-level position, depending on where in the country you are, I'm only speaking for the UK, it's 25 to 35k. It's probably going to be 20 to 30k. You have to realise that the hiring company is going to put a lot of effort into training you up, and not necessarily taking a bit of a gamble, because we all agree what we're going to hire, but it's a start. I say don't negotiate up. Come into it with your eyes wide open. Show you're doing a cracking job, and the opportunity is always there.
I think that the progression opportunities, this industry, I've seen people progress very quickly who are talented and have the aptitude, who take those entry level jobs. It doesn't take long before you get up to that next tier. And I think for people transitioning across, that's the expectation that you need to manage, isn't it? Right. Last one, because I know you've got a hard stop in 2 minutes, Jay. Oh, this is the same. Well, what about certifications with no experience? How do you justify or demonstrate the labs you've done?
I mean, I really don't care about certification. I've got literally zero interest in it. I just want to know what someone's actually done. I know there's a whole industry built around certification. I really couldn't care less. If someone can talk to me about a project that they've done, that carries significantly more weight.
Well, it might be the same person asking this question, because I think Joseph was on LinkedIn and then hopped over to YouTube. So if it is Joseph, I don't know if this will mean the answer's any different. But how would
For
you
me,
leverage that and show the labs coming from someone with Asperger's?
Yeah, talk to me about what you've actually done, and if you haven't got any experience, that's fine. Talk to me about why you're interested in this role, why you want to move across. If you have experience from another industry, talk to me about how that applies as well. Different things for different levels, really.
Yeah, no, thank you. Look, I know you need to get away. So what I'm going to do, rather than sit here and ramble on while you sit there watching me for 2 minutes, I'm going to thank you so much for taking the time to come on. Any final words of wisdom before we let you or release you to the wild, Jay?
Yeah, I do have one final approach, really, which is I think the only reason that a lot of people I know have done so well in the security industry is because they just come across like normal, approachable people. You can sit down, you can chew the fat over a cup of tea, and I don't think that's valued enough.
No, thank you, Jay. Thank you so much. Lee, do you want to say bye to Jay? Anything to say before he goes?
I've spoken to Jay enough today, anyway, as it is. So.
Right,
thanks for coming on, Jay. So, I mean, we continue this for another hour or two, anyway. But
could have done, maybe I'll come back for round 2. Really good.
That'd be
Thank
great.
you in particular for all the questions that everyone's thrown. Sorry we didn't get round to them all, but maybe if we do it again, we can go in a bit more depth in some other areas we didn't touch on today.
Brilliant. Jay, thank you so much. Take care, and we'll see you soon, Jay.
Brilliant. Thank you all. Cheers. Bye.
Right, it's just us chickens. So yeah, how interesting was that?
It was, wasn't it? It was like I said, having known Jay for years, I know how he works and all of experience. I mean, I didn't even get on to actually ask him to tell us one of his hiring horror stories, because I've heard some of them and they're amazing. We probably could have done an hour on those, just sitting there listening to some of the things that have gone well and some that really haven't gone well, because learn by other people's mistakes is another great thing from it. So, if you hear some of the horror stories, there'd be things to learn there. One point which I found quite interesting was when Jay said he doesn't care about people's certifications, he wants to know about experience. That, for me, relates very, very well to university versus apprenticeships. Universities gets you the certificates, apprenticeships gets you the experience.
I think the problem we've got, and Richard's made the comment here, is Jay's approach is phenomenal, but it isn't. Yeah. It isn't the majority.
It's not standard. Yeah.
It isn't. No. So I suppose, but before we wrap things up, do you want to talk about how people can get round the barriers of other companies a little bit that don't have the same kind of mindset? It is so hard. I mean, for me, the industry is changing. I'm speaking to more and more people like Jay who take that approach to hiring every day, but it is going to take time for the industry to change. And it is because it's full of old middle-aged white men like me with mindset.
It's what I think part of the shift is coming through from younger people. The next lot coming through where apprenticeships were more of a thing. Where where rather than right, well, yes, you need to go and go get your certificates, go to university, you have to go do that. I always, believe it or not, I was an accountant for quite a few years, and I did an apprenticeship in accountancy, but it was at that time when chartered accountancy was what you had to do, but that slowly changed into experience. There's different things, there's different ways of doing it, and that's going to filter down into our industry. I mean, there are in the UK, there's some fantastic ones that do apprenticeships and help people with. There's within Leeds, there's probably other place in the UK, but I know one in Leeds is a place called QA. There's a fantastic lady called Beverly McGowan as well, who people should go connect with. She runs an apprenticeship scheme around cyber and IT, and she's very, very clued up, and she gets some really interesting roles.
I think there's two words that end in "incy" that I want to talk about, and that's persistency and consistency. And I
Oh, I
think,
love consistency.
oh, and by the way, for those who just tuned in, I've had a tooth extracted about 2 hours ago, so I've tried not to talk too much today as my mouth pools with blood. So
Tried.
apologies, tried. Yeah, it was difficult, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
difficult. For me, I mean, it can take a year, it could take 2 years to break into the industry, I think is the reality of it. And that the people you see succeed are the ones who are consistent and persistent. And obviously the third bracket is the lucky ones, because sometimes you get a lucky break. And it
Yeah, you
can be
do.
a
I mean, I also think sometimes, I mean, cyber as a whole, I've said it numerous times, said lots of people, cyber means nothing. I
no,
mean, when someone says they're a cyber expert, it means nothing because,
no.
which part is it? SOC? Is it SIEM? Is it
Yeah,
testing?
well, that you can flip round to the candidates or people coming into the industry
Yes.
who
Can
like
you say?
we get the messages every day that say, "I really want to be in cybersecurity." It's okay. What part?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Well, which element? Where do you
yeah,
want to be? And part of the problem is as well is we're speaking to lots of people obviously who want to try and break in, that want these junior roles. But these junior roles don't come up too often because, as Jay said, they take a lot of investment and a lot of time from other companies. So it's hard for them to start them. And I know some companies that are really trying to build larger teams, build testing teams, build things out. But to be able to do that, they need to have more experienced people to be able to train the juniors coming through. So it's not that companies don't want juniors in there; it's at the moment they can't. So
I
yeah,
think that's a really good point, and nearly as good as Kean's, who wants to break in because he just wants to wear a black hoodie, which I thought was quite good. Um, look, we've got some news to share though, haven't we? Jobs in
well,
cyber news.
oh
So
sorry, yeah,
but apart from the live stream that we're doing together, Lee and I founded, or well, Lee kind of founded and asked me to come along for the ride. Is what actually happened. Jobs in cyber at the back end of last year, where we're trying to shake up the recruitment industry from reducing the cost perspective for employers out there. Because one of the barriers, especially with the looming recession, depending on what part of the world you live in, how severe that is, you see the tech layoffs happening, and companies are going to be prohibitive on their recruitment, especially smaller companies who can't afford the higher recruitment fees. So we launched a model that's a 5% model. It is a stripped down model, i.e., you don't get hand holding service. We don't do background checks. We'll find candidates, talk to the candidates, and pass them across with a CV. And the exciting news, Lee, is what?
we got our first solid offer accepted placement yesterday, which is fantastic news.
And the most exciting part of that news is, what is the role?
Junior SOC analyst. So they are out there, and it's with Jay, who's no longer here to talk about it.
We didn't have a chance to talk
Yes.
about it with him today because we had so many questions. I didn't want to let the audience down. But yeah, I mean, obviously you've known Jay a long time. He gave us the chance to place them, and yeah, it's amazing. Ellie, no, for the simple reason we haven't started in the US yet because we need to get the legal paperwork drawn up and a company set up. But it is on our to-do list very, very soon. It's just a case of
ever-growing to-do list. Ever-growing,
yeah,
never shrinking.
ever-growing to-do list. We've got we're building out the advisory board panel because Lee and I, whilst we have certain skill sets, neither of us are experts in cybersecurity. Neither of us are employing people in cybersecurity. So we're trying to bring different people on to give us the knowledge and the expertise that we need to make this work right. The first one we announced this week was the man, the legend, JJ Davey. So he's going to give us a certain perspective. I'm in discussions with a couple more in the UK and 2 others in the US to help us shape and mold what we do with the market there. So yeah, please do watch this space. It is really, really exciting times. And one last sales pitch, because why not? In 20 days, Lee and I are launching the first ever live InfoSec live event in Cambridge, United Kingdom, at the Old Technology Museum, where we've got a focus on instant response. Telefonica coming in to do a chat on that. Proudly sponsored by Cyberscale, who are based here in East Anglia, like local firm to myself, and supported by Cyber East. And I think Cyber East are they part of the resilience centres around the UK?
Yeah, so they're a government-backed body, but they're doing some great work. So, but they're a fairly new setup with it, so they're looking to kind of expand, get a bit of a bigger name, bit of brand, so they can help help more organizations and offer more guidance and things. Yeah, so that one's good. I mean, being honest, I think that one is it's not. I think it's at capacity and not far out.
It is. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think I spoke to Simon Devenold, if he's in the audience. I think he was going to register for it. If he has, I think that might be the last spot gone. There might be one, maybe two spaces left. I mean, it's a laid back event. Pizza, beer, optional. I don't drink, so I'll be on Coca-Cola.
Yeah,
and
I'm more interested in the wood fire pizza oven that's just been built.
And the wood fire pizza oven. And it's about trying to bring the industry together, in particular the leadership of the industry, to actually network and knowledge share without people sales pitching them, which coming from a 30-year salesman is quite ironic. But I think we all agree. Oh, yeah. Do you know what? I'm not your granddad. I'm your dad.
Yeah, that's what it looks like in the pictures. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're interested in coming along, there's a link on my profile. I think there's a link on Lee's profile on LinkedIn as well.
There's a few about this on the website as well on the events page. But we are now organising Manchester for April the 20th.
Yeah, so we've got a few. Yeah, I think so. We've got a few planned in the UK, but we won't talk about them until nearer the time. But yeah, the next one's actually either Atlanta, Georgia, on the 30th of March. I'm just waiting for confirmation on that. But definitely on the 31st of March, we are in Tampa Bay, Florida, for the first. Well, you won't come. You're welcome to come.
I ain't got a passport at the moment, so I can't.
I'll put you in my bag. So yeah, if there's anyone in the Tampa Bay area who's interested in coming along again, please reach out to me. More information will be released about that soon. But no, we're super excited about this year. I think the more people we can get on here like Jay, who've got 20 years experience, they hire people. I think KevTech is coming. Don't worry. And I'm going to buy you pizza with so much pineapple on it as well. Natalie, yes, we are definitely planning on having one in London. Reach out to me and we'll have a chat about that, a bit more details. But Lee, any final words before we wrap things up and I go and mop up my swollen, extracted mouth?
Just have a good weekend, everyone. I'm just keeping it simple. It's Friday.
Well, it is Friday. Don't have a good weekend just yet, because at 8 o'clock GMT or 3 p.m. Eastern time, we're back live. Well, I'm back live in the studio, hopefully with less of a slur on my mouth, with Mike Miller for the next episode.
You do realize that it sounds like that's not going to be enjoyable or be good. Don't have a good weekend just yet because I'm doing this.
I didn't mean it like that. I meant don't run away. Don't run away yet and start enjoying your weekend. Yeah. Come and enjoy the live.
Have a great weekend and start it off with watching this.
Thanks, Shane. And I hope so. Yeah, I'll be great, Natalie, if we saw you in Cambridge. But look, everyone, thank you so much. I'm going to stop rambling on. Lee and I are going to go and have a drink and catch you all very, very soon.
Cheers. Thanks, mate.
See ya.